Congratulations to the Ohio State Buckeyes. They are national champions after taking down the Notre Dame Fighting Irish 34-23. Welcome into Four Verts. My name is Harrison Graham. We've got reaction to this game. Lots of thoughts, angles, storylines galore. And then toward the end of the video, I'm going to just take a way too early look at my top 5 heading into next season. And listen, this is why you subscribe. We have daily NFL and college football content here on the channel. Full disclosure, not sure how much off-season college football content there will be. I'll sprinkle in some videos here and there, I'm sure. But we'll probably shift more NFL heavy with the coaching carousel heating up, free agency draft, all that stuff around the corner. But we'll still work in some college football where it makes sense. And certainly once we get closer to next season, that'll ramp up. But either way, if you're a diehard football fan, NFL, college football, both, we got you covered. Okay, let's talk about the game tonight. And Buckeyes win 34-23. The deep ball from Will Howard to Jeremiah Smith, the freshman phenom, on 3rd and 11 late in the game after the Irish had rallied to cut it to 8 points. They bring a 7-man blitz, cover zero look, try to get home, and Travion Henderson with a great pickup block out of the backfield. Gives Howard plenty of time, identifies the one-on-one, and does what he's done throughout the postseason. Throws a beautiful deep ball, and Smith just torched the corner and got about 50 yards, which put the game away. The better team won tonight. No question about it. Notre Dame, this is one of the scrappiest teams I can remember. It kind of reminds me of the TCU team from a couple years ago. They obviously got stomped by Georgia in the national title game, but the talent discrepancy between those two teams, I think, was pretty wide. And Marcus Freeman and Al Golden and that coaching staff and Riley Leonard's toughness, and they just don't go away. They just do not go away. I mean, they lose to Northern Illinois in week 2, rip off 13 straight with wins to Georgia and over Georgia and Penn State along the way in this title run, and they come up a little short. I mean, this game was 31-7 midway through the third quarter. It was done, and for the Irish to score 2 touchdowns and get 2 2-point conversions to cut it to 8, Marcus Freeman will get questioned for that field goal attempt at one point, which would have cut it from 16-13 with about 9.5 minutes left. I didn't hate the call because they had all 3 timeouts. Their defense has started to play better. I think the thinking there is, okay, let's cut it to 13 and then 2 touchdowns win the game. And by the way, they got the ball back technically 2 more times. Now, the last time was less than 30 seconds left, but, he'll get questioned for that. 4th and goal from the 9. I think that's a low percentage with the way Notre Dame plays offense. But, if you want to push back and say they should have gone there, I certainly don't have a problem with it. But I think at the end of the day, Ohio State just had more firepower. You saw that in the first half. Notre Dame goes on this just gritty, 9-10 minute, 18-play drive. Riley Leonard ran the ball 9 times. He just looks exhausted after the drive. He threw up on the sideline after the first drive. You're like, is he going to be able to run the ball 30 times? That seems like a long shot. And the rest of the half, Ohio State just dominated. It was 21-7, then it was 28-7 early third quarter, then it was 31-7 after Notre Dame failed to get a fake punt. But again, the Irish battled back. They've got this Jaden Greathouse who had the long touchdown against Penn State, made some huge plays in the second half tonight, 111 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think he's on the short list for the Blitnikoff next year, especially if Notre Dame can get a big-time quarterback. That kid's a stud. He's fast. He's fluid. Notre Dame typically doesn't have game breakers like that at receiver. I think he's a big-time player going into next year. But he was really the only skill guy that could match up with the skill talent Ohio State had. Jeremiah Love just hasn't been healthy. They couldn't run the ball other than with Leonard, who rushed it for 40 times on 40 yards on 17 carries. So it's not like he was getting big yardage. So they had to start throwing the ball, and they found some success, but it was too little too late. But just what a talented team Ohio State is. Judkins, 100 yards on 11 carries, transfer from Ole Miss. Will Howard, 17-21, 231, 2 touchdowns, rushed for 57 yards. I said it before the season. It's a tough sell to me that Will Howard can win a national championship, But two things I didn't factor in nearly enough. One is this was not a year in college football where there were dominant quarterbacks left and right. The two best quarterbacks in the country that are going to go high in the draft weren't even in the playoff. Cam Ward at Miami and Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. So from that standpoint, you get into the tournament, it's like, well, Will Howard's as good as any of the other quarterbacks in this tournament. And two, we just did not appreciate, even though we knew it was good, how good this Ohio State team was. I mean, Jeremiah Smith is one of the best freshman players in the history of college football. He'd be a top 5 pick in the NFL draft right now if he was eligible to go. On that deep ball late, it's like he didn't even have to throw a good pass because he beat the corner so bad. So, Will Howard did what he certainly elevated compared to what he was at Kansas State, but he never saw talent like this when he was in Manhattan, Kansas. So I would say the talent around him elevated him more. I mean, Emeka Egbuka, the unsung hero of this team, set a school record for career catches tonight with over 202. JT Tuimoloau on defense, Jack Sawyer. I mean, this team was just loaded. You really have to just question how on earth did they lose to Michigan. But I'll say this. I think a big story for this Ohio State team, and I'm not going to go super like Disney fairy tale or something like that because they are so loaded and talented, probably the most talented team in the country this year, is redemption for Ryan Day. Because I think the rumors were real. Had they lost to Tennessee in the first round of the playoff, I think there's a good chance he would have been fired. Fair or not, I think that was on the table. And you lose 4 straight to Michigan after winning 15 of 16. You're 1-4 against Michigan. This year especially, where you have a far better roster. The vibes are at an all-time low with the fan base. And to come out, kill Tennessee, destroy Oregon, who beat you earlier in the year, grind out a game over Texas in Arlington, and then to win the national championship, that's how you silence the haters if you're Ryan Day. Now, if he loses to Michigan again next year, there's still going to be loud voices. Yeah, like he's got to start winning his fair share of that game. Doesn't have to be every year, but you could, what's the old phrase in sports? Control what you can control. Well, in a 12-team playoff, you get a second chance. And they got in and they went on a run. And by the way, it wasn't an easy draw. Tennessee, tough draw in the first round. Oregon, a team you lost to earlier in the year, not easy. Texas, in Arlington, Texas, not an easy draw. And then Notre Dame, who's not the most talented team, but maybe the most buttoned up team in the country this year. Although I think they had a few weird plays tonight, a bad roughing the passer call at one point. Listen, they earned it. There's nothing you can say. And, that's what sports are about. It's about storylines. It's about, grabbing our attention. And, the lasting image in that Ohio State-Michigan game is Jack Sawyer freaking out at the Michigan staffer and Ryan Day just looking on, Michigan planting the flag. You're thinking this team can't bounce back. And they did. And Ryan Day deserves credit for that. He absolutely does. And what a staff. I mean, to hire Chip Kelly, that was a great move. Jim Knowles, great defensive coordinator. If he keeps those guys around, they're built to win for a while. They obviously have a lot of seniors that are going to be gone, and with guys like Howard and Jack Sawyer and Tuimoloau and Egbuka, but you got Jeremiah Smith. We'll see who the quarterback is, whether it's what's the kid's name? Julian, whatever his name is. I was just looking this up. Julian Sand, I think his name is. He's going to have to compete for the starting job, but if the quarterback is good, they're going to be loaded on the outside. We all know that. Carnell Tate as well. So, what a win. What a team. And, 2 losses, but 12-team playoff now. It's unless a team goes 16-0, no one's going to be like, well, that team lost two times. There's an asterisk there. No, they're national champs. That's kind of how this whole thing works. So, congrats to Ohio State. Hell of a season for Marcus Freeman and Notre Dame. I mean, they maxed out. Riley Leonard is a fine college player. He's kind of like Tim Tebow. He's gritty. He's tough. He can run. He can make some timely passes. I think at best he's a backup in the NFL. Maybe he carves out a poor man's Taysom Hill role, but that is not a high-level NFL quarterback. He got every drip out of his talent at Notre Dame this year. What a great leader. Just a classic, gritty college quarterback. Certainly they have talent. Xavier Watts is a stud. They have a few guys, and they had a lot of injuries too. And Marcus Freeman's a superstar. Side note, absolutely diabolical from Ian Rappaport. Literally, as the clock strikes 0, he tweets out that Al Golden has emerged as a defensive coordinator candidate for the Bengals, which has kind of been like the worst kept secret. They want to hire him. It's like, dude, can they lose for 5 minutes before you get your little tweet out? But they'll have to replace him, assuming he goes to Cincinnati. But I think this guys, they lost to Northern Illinois. It just goes to show, like, obviously that's a fluke loss, but it goes to show that this wasn't some just outrageously talented team. Very good team, a lot of good players, some pros on it. You compare the two rosters. Let's look back in 10 years and see how many high-level pros from these teams are playing in the NFL. I think Ohio State will have significantly more. That's my guess. Okay, way too early top 5. And I think it's getting harder to do this with the portal and NIL and, rosters changing so much year after year. I think 5 teams stand out to me with a couple of honorable mentions. 1, I think Texas will be preseason number 1. The Arch Manning hype train will be off the charts. But they're also loaded. They got to replace a couple of receivers, but they're good in the trenches. Sark is going to find some skill guys. CJ Baxter's back at running back after missing this year. People don't even remember their best running back got hurt in fall camp. He'll be back. Wisner's back. Got to replace some skill guys on the outside, but they'll be able to do that. They have a couple young players. Jonte Moore, whatever his name is. He's in the mix as well. Their defense is as good as it's been in a while. So I'll go Texas 1. I'll go Ohio State 2, Penn State 3. I thought about going Penn State 2 with Aller and both the running backs coming back, Singleton and Katron Allen. But I still have yet to see Drew Aller play big-time ball in like high level games. They won 2 playoff games, but it was against SMU and Boise. He still has got to take that next step and prove that, but they are loaded. They have a really good roster. Losing Tyler Warren, a couple of defensive guys, but they're going to be really good. Georgia 4, I don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be. Obviously, Carson Beck is gone. Is the kid that played in the playoff game and in the second half against Texas, is he the answer? I'm not sure. We'll see what Kirby Smart does there at quarterback, so I'll put them at 4. And then I think you can debate Oregon, Clemson. Would you put Notre Dame in there? Tennessee, if Nico can take a jump. I'd probably go Oregon. I like Dante more. I thought he flashed a lot as a freshman at Oregon or UCLA. He ended up transferring and sitting behind Gabriel this year, but I would imagine he's taken a lot of steps forward from that experience. If he's the real deal, Oregon is loaded. They have a lot of talent. But there's going to be a lot of teams in the mix. LSU is super talented. Miami is super talented if Carson Beck can bounce back. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what the preseason polls look like. But, this. Ohio State, they're just going to reload. Texas is going to reload. You got to think Kirby and Georgia, they're going to have a bit of a chip on their shoulder next year, 2 years in a row, not even being in the semifinals. So that's going to be a group that's motivated. Does a team like Bama bounce back? What do they look like? I don't even have them in my preseason top 10, if I'm being honest. So big year for Kalen DeBoer, but this is a sport that, has become more and more year-round. And when there's big updates, we will hit you guys with videos. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. Again, congrats to Ohio State. Tomorrow, for you NFL fans, I will have an updated NFL head coach predictions video after the Bears hired Ben Johnson. Still 5 openings to fill, so stay tuned for that. My name is Harrison Graham. We will see you guys very soon.